right. Hello, everyone. I am going to get started here shortly as people are hopping on. And today we're going to be talking about managing stress for better digestion and metabolism. I'm super excited for this one as I have been learning a lot about gut health and gut bacteria and just how crucial the gut-brain connection truly is for managing even just our mental health, physical health, our recovery. So it can apply to everything health related and usually is the foundation to start with. A lot of health concerns can be stemming from the gut, which is really, really fascinating. So super excited to dive into this one. As always, if you have questions, put them in the chat or just reach out to me afterwards at my email or Instagram, which I'll put at the end. So as a little introduction for myself, my name is Sarah Davies. If you are unfamiliar, we haven't met. I am an integrative health practitioner and a personal trainer and have my bachelor's of science in exercise science and owner of Sarah T Wellness, which is my own practice of health and fitness coaching, both in person in Denver here and then online. So I do virtual health and fitness coaching. And my approach is really focusing on all aspects of wellness and physical, emotional, mental, social, and spiritual health. So we're not just talking about the physical side, we're also diving deeper into the emotional side because that plays a crucial role in how you show up on a daily basis, how you show up in the gym, and even just in your daily relationships, your work life. So I like taking a more holistic approach with this. And what that looks like is basically, I believe that our bodies have the power to heal naturally. And I help teach others the same thing, to teach others to heal themselves naturally as well and kind of have it be a ripple effect. And what we're working on is all these concepts of diet, exercise, stress management, toxin removal, rest and recovery, emotional health, supplements, and success mindset. So that's where my minor in psychology comes in just a little bit, where I love talking about your belief systems and what's maybe holding you back and your limiting beliefs. Because if you're intaking all the right nutritious foods and going to the gym, you can only do so much there if you're not also working on the mindset piece. So you're not going in with a positive mindset or the belief that you are worthy of achieving the goals that you set for yourself. And that's usually the stopping point for a lot of people. They don't feel like they can achieve their desired result because of past failures or being let down. And really normal. I think we can all relate to that. I've experienced that, and sometimes it's through those challenging times that you are becoming more confident and really truly believing in yourself and that you can, yeah, whatever you set your mind to, you can achieve that. So that's everything I kind of cover in my health and fitness coaching, a little bit about me, and want to just share that. And let's dive in to the agenda for today for this class. So we're going to be going over the stress, the gut, the blood sugar, why it matters, the gut-brain connection, key signs of imbalance, simple lifestyle strategies to reset your system, nutrition tips, and then we'll do a little breath work technique, and then we'll have some, takeaways and questions if you have those at the end. So let's start with just the basics of why it's all connected. So I wanted to talk about the stress component, the gut, and the blood sugar and how it all works together. Because when you have any amount of stress in your life, as we probably all know, right, stress can cause inflammation and really is the root of a lot of health concerns and diseases. And because it affects the whole system, it affects your digestion, it affects your hormones, it affects your metabolism and just your overall energy on a daily basis. So even if you're dealing with some symptoms that could be like just craving sugar in the afternoon, or always need that sweet treat at the end of a meal, or maybe you feel really tired and exhausted throughout the day, and or maybe after you eat a meal, you feel bloated after every single meal, or holding on to stubborn weight. Stress and gut health could be the real issue of why you're dealing with all those symptoms, not just your willpower. not just the ability to be like um like I don't really crave sugar, right? It could be a much deeper concern or issue. And most women think that it needs to be eating less and exercising more. But without addressing the stress and the gut health, you're not really creating results, right? Because you're just looking at that one component. So, as many of us, we're juggling so many things in our life, family, work life, your relationships, and we're just kind of going through it with a lot of stress without realizing it. So sometimes it is, rather than adding more to your plate, taking away. So regulating your stress, nourishing your gut, and stabilizing your blood sugar. So that way your body feels safe. Because what happens is your body just is kind of fighting off the bear, right? It's fighting off getting into that fight or flight response on a daily basis. Um, because it doesn't matter if it's a mental thought that you have or it's a physical ailment like a pain or ache that you're dealing with, or it's the work meetings that are back to back all day. Like all that is just different forms of stress. And I'll kind of go into what those are. But first, let's define what stress is. So, stress is more, I would say, the second one, but it's also like pressure on just like a material object. Um, but how I'm talking about it is more of a state of mental or emotional strain resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances, like the examples I gave, like work, or it's, like you just tore your ACL, or it's, a fight with your coworker or your, partner, things like that. It could be in different circumstances, of course. So there's three main stressors that we have. We have one, which is the one I'm more alluding to, which is a lot of the work life emotional stress, the fear, anxiety, the more mental stress, the overwhelm that you have, maybe it's depression. And then we have the gut stress. So more so like we're not actually absorbing our food or digesting well, that's a stress on the body. And then third is going to be viruses, so more infection based, more sicknesses, immune system, that type of thing. So with all those, so say you just have some emotional stress with work, overwhelm, but then you're also dealing with some bloating. Like those are two big stressors that are overloaded on your body. And then put on top of that, your immune system is probably gonna be a little not working as well. And then you get a little cold, right? So that's like three big things on your body and can really affect the gut. And it's a full circle. So that's what this is alluding to. So your body, and this is what a lot of people don't know, and like really, really want you all to remember this, or at least write it down, or at least think about it as because again, the general population doesn't know this. A lot of even doctors don't know this, or like they might know it, but they're not taught it because they're more looking at like one specific concern or symptom that you're having. So, for example, like depression, you go in, put on an SSRI, or like say you have IBS, like a certain gut issue, they're putting on you on this medication, not realizing it's all like the connect, that's all, it doesn't really matter where it first stemmed from, but it's all like connected. So we might as well rebalance the body to fix both of those issues that you're having. So, nervous system affects the endocrine system, which affects the immune system. So, your nervous system is, right, think your brain and spinal cord. So, it's going to be, they're working together. So, when you have that mental thought or something overwhelming, that's sending signals outside to your brain, out into your body, right? Which is turning on those stress hormones and turning off other hormones. For example, like your estrogen or progesterone. Um, I wanted to share how which, one second. Like for example, some people, so for women, right, when we go through our menstrual cycle, a lot of times their luteal phase might be a little shorter or a little longer, and that could be due to stress. Like for example, for myself, which a lot of people, if you know my personal experience, I lost my menstrual cycle for a period of time. And that was just due to so much stress on my body, which turned off those hormones to facilitate that menstrual cycle and the shedding of the uterus. So that's a big one, or like a big example. Or for example, like with people dealing with infertility, definitely could be causes from stress. Then it affects your immune system. So when your cortisol is high, you're gonna have, which we've all probably experienced, like you get, say you go on vacation, super relaxed, you come back and you maybe get a little cold or strep throat or something like that, because you have a decrease in your immune function. Maybe getting back into work, getting back into your routine, stress may be a little bit higher, and that's where your immune system kind of shuts down a little bit and increases a little bit of inflammation. So as you can see, it all affects each other, and usually it's from the nervous system first. Those signals are sending to the hormones and then to your immune system as well. When I learned this, like everything changed. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, it makes sense. Like, I'm like, yes, of course, like your body's one system, but we're really taught that it's just different parts. Like, as far as like Western medicine, it's different parts of your body and they're treating one. You want to think of it as one whole system. They all impact each other. And once you learn that and like truly understand that, it's like it's amazing. So now we're going to go into blood sugar regulation and how stress has a big role on that. So when we are stressed, we can have, so a lot of times when people are stressed, say you have a lack of sleep, your stress is going to be a little bit higher, right? You're going to be a little bit more sleep deprived. And our sleep is our foundation because that's when we have the greatest percentage of fat loss, because we're more relaxed, right? If you have really deep quality sleep, you're going to be more relaxed. You're going to have a little bit more fat loss. Because again, when you're under, like I said, any emotional stress or gut related, or there's different parts that we went into, affection based, your body is going to release some sugar into the bloodstream, and then insulin is released to lower that unused sugar. So basically your body wants to keep surviving, right? It wants to keep yourself at homeostasis. So it's going to do the best of its ability to, right, keep you alive. So it's going to release that insulin because your body doesn't want you to have your blood sugars drop too low. So that's why a lot of people, right, are dealing with insulin resistance because of, again, there's multiple factors, but stress could be one of them because the insulin is constantly getting released. So other ways this happens is from working out fasted, so having coffee first thing in the morning. Again, it's very individual, but a lot of times we're all dealing with stress, and the best way to kind of manage that is with, having a little bit of food before you have your coffee, even if it's something small, like adding protein powder to the coffee, or it's adding a little bit of collagen, like some protein, some fat, just to get you going. And then another example could also be caffeine in general, right? That can really spike the blood sugar and have it dysregulated throughout the day if you're having quite a bit of caffeine, because when you're having even just that sip of coffee or any, energy drink or whatever caffeine it is, your body's going to think you're in flight or flight, even if you're the most relaxed state, like on the couch, sipping your coffee. Your brain and body think like everything gets just upregulated a little bit. So, which is okay as long as you're balancing it and not overdoing it. That's the biggest thing. And how this relates to the gut-brain connection is this kind of, again, full circle diagram. So stress of all factors can lead to the opening of the intestinal wall of your gut. And that's called leaky gut. There's multiple names for it. Intestinal permeability is another name for it. And that leads to a heightened inflammation response, which again goes back to weakening your immune function. So I kind of already alluded to this gut brain connection. We went over the nervous system, endocrine, and then the immune system, but this is just another way I can kind of show it. We know that like 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut, which is wild. And so that just shows you that like if like describing it as, mental health, when I like clients I've worked with and myself, if we're kind of dealing with some stress or anxiety or depression, I first want to look at like, well, how's your gut doing? Like how are you, like what are the nutrients you're getting in on a daily basis? We could just be missing some crucial vitamins and minerals, and that could solve how your anxiety is showing up in your daily life. That simple fix can go a long ways. For example, and I'll go into those supplements and things, but things like omega-3s and B vitamins, like it's phenomenal. Like even, and maybe I'll like send this out too. There's like a research article that talks about that and how there's certain nutrients that are going to affect your mitochondria function and just suicide prevention. They've looked at like without even talking to the person in this study, they would run their like blood work and all their biomarkers. And with looking at that, they could tell so much about that person of how depressed they were, which is just incredible. And it just shows you that there's so much that we're still learning about the brain and the gut and how much it plays a role in each other. So, and then going in a little bit deeper, so how that is gonna alter the gut is basically it's gonna lower nutrient absorption. So when your body, basically when we are eating like a meal, you want to be in a more relaxed state to have better digestion or stronger digestion. So PNS is parasympathetic nervous system. So that's the rest and digest state. When we don't have that and we're under a little bit of stress or we're going through work emails as we're eating, we're going to maybe have a little bit lack of stomach acid, which leads to less bile production. And that's going to lead to poor digestion. So basically the stress is going to speed up or slow down your bowel motility. So you're either going to go to the bathroom a lot or you're not going to go at all, and it kind of shuts down. Which again, this may be TMI, but like I don't know if anyone else has experienced this when you're giving like a big presentation or like speech in high school or something like that. Like some people, right, they have diarrhea before, or like they go to the bathroom like more because it's speeding up their bowel motility because they're really nervous, and that's kind of the result of that. Along with that, those other very common gut related issues like SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or IBS, again, other just names for those gut issues, they become more present when you're under too much stress. So why this happens is because the food isn't digesting and it just basically ferments in your gut, leading to more gas and poor digestion. So when people are dealing with bloating, that's usually like if it's especially underneath your belly button, that's your small intestine. So that's basically telling me that there might be, a gut imbalance there if it's in that lower region, which can lead to constipation and even back pain. Like a lot of people, walking around dealing with back pain, it could be gut related. It could be more, muscle, tension, things like that. But those are some, results of the SIBO and IBS. And what also is fascinating is that digestion is so important because that's how we get our nutrients. That's how we absorb, get fuel, energy for the day. And 30% of just our daily energy is going to that digestion. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work on our body. And these are just markers, as you can see, of how long those certain macronutrients are taking to digest in your body. So fruit, 20 minutes, starches, 1 hour, protein 2 to 3 hours, meat over 3 hours. So a lot of times, right, like for meat, it takes a lot longer to digest that. And as you can see, like we're getting that big push on protein, it keeps you satiated. And that's why it takes a really long time to digest. So it's great, right? Because it keeps you satiated, it keeps energy high. But you just want to be mindful of that it could, for someone that's maybe dealing with more of a gut related issue, you don't want to overdo it because that could even slow down your motility even more, your bowel motility. So starch, yeah, and the starch is 1 hour. Fruit is the quickest, right? Quick energy. It has a little bit of fiber, so it's a little bit easier to absorb and digest. All right, any questions so far? Put them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to keep rolling. We have key signs of imbalance next. So how do you even know what the signs are, the symptoms are of some poor digestion or maybe even just poor metabolism? Bloating, mood swings, low energy, brain fog, emotional eating, stubborn belly fat, kind of that, yeah, lower region of your underneath your belly button is just like more bloated. And then trouble sleeping. So just poor sleep patterns, maybe sleep deprived. And if you have those certain imbalances, there's a way to actually kind of test if it's coming from stress. And that is with at-home functional lab testing, which I provide for my clients, or self-testing. I did a podcast episode on this, a quick self-test. Just sorry, that's a mouthful. Self-test for your stress that you can do at home, listen to the podcast is basically little signs. For example, like your heart rate availability, your temperature, and sleep as well. I go through that in that podcast episode, so you can definitely check that out on the Growth Over Fear podcast. Just kind of scroll down, you'll see it in there. To kind of do your own self-test to see if how your stress is and how you're managing it. For example, for myself, I notice if my resting heart rate is higher, like 1 week compared to the next, then that's a sign I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, like I'm a little bit more stressed this week. If you're seeing that little irregularity, along with heart rate variability. But usually that's the big, because I wear a Garmin watch, and that's where I notice, oh, my resting heart rate's a little bit, yeah, like 10 beats higher or 5 beats higher. I'm like, oh yeah, like we're under stress. Maybe my workouts have been a little bit harder, and I haven't had time to downregulate and let myself kind of chill for a little bit. So those are some quick little signs as well. And what we're all taught is just eat less, just do more and eat less. Yeah, like everyone's looking at, calorie counting, which is a wonderful tool to gain awareness. And I think it's super important to gain awareness of like just your portion sizes. And so I definitely think it's a helpful tool. However, it's not always just as quick as just eat less than what you've been consuming to lose that stubborn fat or weight. Or just cutting your carbs down a little bit. This could be really helpful in the short term, but it sometimes can just mask the symptoms that you're having for a period of time, which can, again, lead to autoimmune conditions down the line if we're just kind of ignoring the root cause, which could be what I'm all talking about, the poor digestion, the blood sugar instability, or just inflammation, and it's just constantly overloading your body. And those low calorie diets, they just, again, will just slow down your metabolism even more. Again, very individual. This is kind of just very general, but it can also disrupt your hormones as well. If you're just like under eating and just doing more and just, have your caffeine overload and just kind of going throughout your day thinking you're fine, when it could just be masking it for, months or even years that we're kind of dealing with those issues. So, and this is a great analogy I like to think of. It's like trying to fix a leaky roof by just mopping the floor, right? Like you're having a leak and water's coming through your house and you're just mopping it up and you're like, oh, it's fine. That's not how you'd solve it, right? You might clean up the mess temporarily, but it's just going to keep flooding your house. So it's just the example of like trying to lose a few pounds with a restrictive diet. We're not getting to that root cause of chronic stress or poor gut health, and the problem just keeps coming back. So we want to fix the roof, aka your internal systems, your hormones, your nervous system. Those are the main two things for lasting change. So fixing those two things is going to be really, really important. So I hope that's helpful to think about. All right, let's actually get to the strategies to manage your stress. So a lot on here. I'm going to go through it one by one. So when we look at lifestyle strategies, I'm thinking of like simple things you can do daily in your routine to manage your stress better for better digestion and metabolism. Because again, we want to get yourself more in that relaxed state, rest and digest state, the PEMS. So breath work is a wonderful tool. I think it's the easiest thing you can do on a daily basis in between transitions of going into work, leaving work. So once you get in your car, take 10 deep breaths. Once you are about to head into the house, 10 deep breaths. Those are great. So anything that's a transition in between meetings, anything, in your routine that you're stopping and then going again, or upon waking and before bed. Before bed, a wonderful way is to put your legs up the wall. You're on the floor and you just put your legs up the wall and just breathe. That is going to activate your vagus nerve. That's going to relax your nervous system, get you more down regulated. Another great tool for breath work, like more specifically, is that box breathing that you probably have heard, where we do 4-second inhale, hold for 7 seconds, 8-second exhale. So long exhale. The longer the exhale, the more you're going to be getting into that parasympathetic state. So those are 3 specific things as far as breath work goes that you can incorporate to help manage your stress. Another one would be supplements. Again, I'm not going to go too deep on these because, again, I'm not a medical doctor, but happy to help with these as far as if you're wanting specific like recommendations or things to look at. I can definitely help you with those. You want to just make sure any you're looking at are third-party tested, like really make sure they're qualified supplements and not just the ones from, but like Sam's Club or Costco or just Target, right? Like you really want to make sure they're quality supplements. And a lot of times they are going to be a little bit more spendier, right? If you're purchasing them online through a qualified professional, like they're just going to be more spendier, but they're guaranteed to work because they've probably done studies on them and they're tested. Definitely worth it, in my opinion, compared to just having these random supplements just because someone told you to, and then you don't even know if they are great supplements. So the top nutrients for getting depleted when you're under stress, like I already mentioned, B vitamins, zinc, magnesium, vitamin C, and then glutamine. So top supplements under any amount of stress, you're going to be depleted in those. So those are great ones to look into to kind of help manage your stress. Adrenal support. So this helps with your adrenals, your cortisol response, ashwagandha. So those is amazing. I actually take it. I was taking it daily before bed or in the morning, and it's one of those things, again, like you don't just start taking, you're like, oh my God, I feel so much better. But it's like you feel you definitely can tell you're a little bit more regulated when you are taking more of those adaptogens. So the herbal ashwagandha, rhodiola is another one. So yeah, wonderful supplement to just help balance that stress response. And honestly, I recommend like a lot of women looking into those adrenal supports because, again, we overwork ourselves, we're overthinking, and those can be really beneficial. Other ones, like I said, magnesium, an activated B complex, and omega-3s. Those are other 3 main ones I really look for a client that is dealing with a lot of stress and needs to manage that. Those are other 3 great ones as well. And then downtime. So we want to incorporate downtime in your day. We want to incorporate, maybe this isn't a little bit harder for other people, right? If you have multiple kids, you have, pets at home, and you have your job, you need to go home, cook, like all the things. Even if it's just like a few minutes, the breath work could count as that downtime. Or really, it doesn't matter when you have it. It's just making sure you have time to just reflect, think, not have any stimulus. So we're constantly overloaded, whether it's social media, the news, you go on Facebook, like it's just, oh my gosh, so much. We're constantly dealing with information. So just having time where you don't have any technology is how I like to think about it. A great way is to just not take your phone when you go on a walk, or it's, having your exercise, like your workout routine, whether it's at home or at the gym, just time away from the work, the phone, and that is can be really beneficial. Along with that, getting out in nature, doing some meditation, journaling, reading, whatever you like to do. Honestly, just put whatever you like to do in this downtime. I mean, I think we can all, again, agree that when you are hanging out with friends or you're going on a little hike, like you feel so good. You feel so good after. And that's a great time to help manage your stress because you're happy, you're in a good relaxed state. So incorporating that a little bit more, even if it's just like once a week or a few times. And then lastly is daily sunlight, grounding, movement. So something is better than nothing at the end of the day, but if you're able to get some time outside, 10 minutes, that can really help your immune function too. That vitamin D, you're getting that sunlight. Like the light literally is, we're electric beings, and like the sun is giving us energy, just like it gives plants energy. So again, even if it's just 5 minutes in the morning getting outside, or it's on your weekend, that can help a lot. And my last quote that I put, right, your body's meant to be out in nature, move, be connected with the earth. So as it starts to get nicer, right, putting your feet in the grass, that is where grounding comes in, or in the sand, in the ocean, or a lake. Like those are great ways to feel good and downregulate. And then movement in general, getting outside your head into your body, yoga session, something like that is also great. So my best advice when dealing with stress is just to breathe. So we're going to do it together for at least a minute here. So I want you to sit up nice and tall on your chair. And I want you to place one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest, and just kind of get reconnected with your body. So I want you to take a big inhale through the bottom hand. So your belly's expanding, sides are expanding. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold. And then exhale, let it all out for 8. And then repeat that. So we're going to inhale again, in through the nose, hold. And exhale 7 seconds out. We're going to do that again. Inhale again. And if you want, you can shut your eyes. Exhale out. Again, the longer the exhale, the better. The more you're going to be a little bit more relaxed. We'll do one more. Holding for at least 5 to 7 seconds. And then exhale for 8. Beautiful. And even just that, I don't even know. We did like 5 deep breaths. Like you should be a little bit more, like your heart rate went down a little bit. You're a little bit more where your feet are. It feels so good. It feels so good. So even just that little bit, and think if you did 5 minutes of that. I know it can be hard, but even just starting with 1 minute like that can make a big difference. All right. Now let's go into the nutrition side of things for better balance as far as blood sugar and stress response. So we're going to first talk about mindful eating, using all your senses. You probably remember this from grade school. Again, talked about this a lot, but it's so, so important. Because like I said, when you're under any amount of stress, when you're eating, that's going to dysregulate your digestion and your gut. So being more in that parasympathetic state, we're going to use your hunger fullness scale. So that could be just like, am I full now? Or am I just eating to grab something? Like, even just that connection of being more thoughtful when you are eating, of like, that's why, when people do their prayer or gratitude towards their food, that can also help them be a little bit more present. Putting your fork down in between bites, that's a simple one you can do. Slowing down just in general. And then my favorite one is just chewing more, like chewing 20, 30 times before swallowing each bite. Like that in itself, you're going to break down that food even more so your digestion doesn't have to do as much work. Just like you won't just swallow a whole piece of like chicken breast, you want to really, really chew it all the way down before swallowing it. And then removing distractions as well. So like removing the computer, the laptop, the TV, the phone. That one's definitely a little bit harder, especially for me. That's when I still will have my phone, listen to a podcast, or like checking up on things. So that's myself. That's something I need to work on. But at least for me, I'm trying to be more present with slowing down as I'm, checking my phone. So again, you're not perfect. We're not perfect, but even just doing the best you can with these little tricks can go a long way. And you can incorporate the breath work, right? 10 deep breaths before you start diving into your food. That itself puts you more in that state. And then one that's not talked about enough is spacing your meals out. A lot of times people think nice little quick, like 8 meals a day or, little stuff every day throughout the day. You want to give your digestive system a break. So like I said, 30% of your energy is going towards digestion. So if you're constantly kind of eating throughout the day, you're not giving yourself that break to actually digest your food, which again, I don't think is talked about enough. So again, very individual. Obviously, if someone is, running on low blood sugar and they definitely need a little bit of something, that's totally fine. Like giving yourself a little snack, in the afternoon, but trying to space them out a little bit for like 2 to 3 hours in between each meal is really, really great. And having majority of your liquid 30 minutes before a meal or 1 hour after. So that one's definitely a lot harder. Like again, I understand a lot of these things can be maybe not as realistic for others, but again, doing the best you can. When you're having like, say I'm drinking water as I'm eating, again, that's gonna just kind of disrupt the digestion with your food. And so so that's why a lot of times lately I'll like have my water beforehand and then I'll go into my meal and then drink after. Even just doing that will help a ton. Um, and then another last two pieces here is just stop eating a few hours before bed. Again, not realistic for a lot of people, but even if it's just an hour, trying to give yourself a little bit of time before going to bed is, again, you just want to make little changes. Like, understand this could be a lot. So, doing the best. Again, for me, some days it's 2 hours. Some days, like, I'm working late, so then I only have an hour before bed. So, again, just doing the best you can, try and see how it feels for you, right? Trial and error. Like, all these things are like, be curious with how your body responds to them. For myself, I notice a big difference when I do eat like hour to 2 hours before bed. My sleep's better. Like my sleep score on my Garmin's way better. I wake up a little bit more well rested. My digestion's better. Because again, your body's going to be more focused on sleeping and resting rather than breaking down the food while you're trying to sleep and not counteract each other. And then lastly, for this one, it's going to be balanced meals. So making sure at least majority of your food is going to be coming from those whole foods. That's just going to do wonders for your blood sugar, compared to having, more of those processed foods with a lot of sugar or starches. We're going to just have that insulin release more often. So less processed. And then along with balanced meals, more fiber, right? So more veggies on your plate, more nuts and seeds. Fiber it's going to do, it's so helpful for getting the bowels moving. So like 25 to 30 grams is a great rule of thumb per day that you want to get. If you're like, Sarah, I have no idea. I have no idea where I'm at. That's okay. I think a good rule of thumb is like looking at just how many veggies you're getting in per day. If you're like, I get maybe 1 cup, okay, let's maybe add a little bit more. Let's go for 2 cups. Like even just that itself can bump up that number. Nuts and seeds are great, like chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds. Those have a lot of fiber. Avocados are great, healthy fat, but then they also have a lot of fiber in them. So you could go to like one of those fitness or like tracking, like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer to track your food, just like a quick day, just put all your food in, see where it's at, the fiber intake on the app, and that way you can get kind of a more accurate number. Otherwise just kind of up the micronutrients, so the veggies and fruits. And then going more specifically, these are I'm not gonna spend too much time, but this is good rule of thumb as far as like how to support your metabolism, getting quite a bit of protein in breakfast, lunch, dinner, and incorporating those veggies and healthy fats with each meal. These are great like framework as far as foods, or like a good framework for how to support your metabolism with whole foods. Starches actually at dinner. A lot of times, right, usually people have their biggest meal at dinner, which is great because it actually does help with sleep. So starches like your, quinoa, your rice, oats, potatoes, that releases serotonin, and that again helps support your gut, but then also helps support your rest and digest state. So supporting melatonin release at night. So that's why starches in the dinner can be really helpful for people that struggle with sleep. And then just more whole foods, right? Like getting more, your salmon, fish, meat, or like tofu, like just quality foods that are not just a bunch of ingredients. Trying to have more home cooked meals, again, it's going to help a lot with that. All right, we're almost done, I promise. This has been a lot of information, so I hope you're retaining it. And again, you can always rewatch this to kind of take some notes and come back to it when you need to, because there's a lot in here. I wanted to give the most value I could with all this information, because again, I want to help as many people as I can get their hands on this information and know it and share with others too. So I hope you do that. But let's go into other tips, little stuff for supporting that digestion that are more lifestyle related, but also food. Digestive enzymes. There are certain supplements, sometimes bitters. Those are certain supplements that you can have before a meal to better break down your food. So if you are noticing a lot of like bloating, and again, poor digestion, digestive enzymes could be really helpful. Even just sipping on ginger tea. So ginger, lemon tea, or just any hot tea like that, specifically ginger, really helpful. Like even if it's afternoon, if it's, in the morning, during a meal or after, like that's when you could have during a meal because it helps to support, anti-inflammatory, helps really absorb your nutrients. So that's a great one. That one's really simple. And sometimes I'll do that before bed, just sip on some ginger tea. And yeah, other one is going to be, I talked about fruit being quick, right, to digest, 20 minutes. So we want to eat fruit usually first. So if you have a meal where you have fruit on your plate, eat that first, or ideally away from your meals. That's also just going to help basically think of like food combining, right? Like if you have this food and like nuts, you have your rice and beans, and then your chicken, whatever, and then veggies. Like our body kind of absorbs differently depending on what foods we're combining on our plate, which is a whole nother topic. But when it comes to fruit, if we're combining it with, like say, watermelon, and then you have your chicken, and then you have broccoli and your rice, you want to technically eat that fruit first, or just have it, 20, 30 minutes before your main meal, and then go into that chicken, rice, and broccoli or whatever it is. That will help a ton. Because again, everything metabolizes at a different rate, and the fruit is the fastest. So then you'd go after that more to like the veggies and everything, and then you'd go into the protein last. So again, I'm getting really nitty gritty, but those are other helpful tips as far as what you're eating first. Another helpful, which you probably heard about, apple cider vinegar, very acidic, 1 to 2 tablespoons with your meals or directly after can really help stabilize blood sugar. So there are some people that like to do it on an empty stomach. You can also do that. Again, just helps with bile production and your digestion overall, but then also your blood sugar. We now know that it helps stabilize it and not have so much of a spike after. So that's another quick tip that you can incorporate as well for like a bigger meal, like your lunch or dinner. All right, that was everything. So much information. I hope there's at least one thing you're taking away from this today. If there is, I would love to hear what that is, like one specific thing that we went over that you can incorporate into your life or at least look into. I would love to know what that is. And then I'm going to go into just my specific health coaching program. Before I get into that, though, I hope the takeaway that you really truly have is just how much our gut, our brain is all connected and how it manages stress. So since we know that, using these tips to help, number one, manage your stress with these things, breath work, incorporating downtime, looking into maybe some supplements if you need those, and then also the nutrition tips that we went over, mindful eating, stopping a few hours before bed, spacing your meals out, and just making sure your meals are a little bit more balanced with, a lot of protein, veggies, healthy fats. And then my little analogy, remembering that, like how we want to really get to the root cause of why this is all happening. And if it keeps coming back, right, if you realize, you're keep dealing with some sort of issue, then we want to know what truly is going on internally. But in the meantime, working on these strategies can go a long way. And I've noticed that I've had clients that even just the simple tips of mindful eating, the breath work before meals, they notice less bloating, they feel better, just overall their energy is better. And it's just amazing how like the smallest things can really truly make a difference in how you manage your day, and your metabolism as well. So now I want to talk about a fun little kind of giveaway, like as far as for my health and fitness coaching, Sarah to Wellness. This includes the functional lab testing. So for gut health, hormone levels, health coaching, I incorporate that all into my one-on-one program. And if you really want to get to that deep root cause of why you are dealing with mood swings, the stubborn weight gain, the blood sugar regulation, dysregulation, just poor energy in general, I would love to chat with you. We'll schedule a free discovery call, and that's where I can just more so listen to you, of what you're dealing with and what you want to work on, and then we can see if it's a good fit. With that discovery call, we go into, again, getting to the root cause of your health systems, rebalancing your body and your mind to live a resilient life, and mastering holistic healthy habits along the way. So if this is something you're like, yes, I'm interested in that, or at least want to learn more, or maybe you know a friend that you're like is dealing with a lot of these things, and you're like, oh my gosh, I keep thinking about this person, just send them my information. I would love to help. You can email me wellness to schedule that discovery call and kind of get started. And then for today, I am showing you my paid in full 4-month coaching package that includes one functional lab test. That lab test is going to be that really it's ultimately what you're kind of currently dealing with. If it is more of that poor digestion, the bloating, the, just poor stress management, we might go into more adrenal and hormone testing If it's more gut related, we'll do the gut test that looks at your gut bacteria and kind of see if there's, again, your gut's in balance and you just don't really know, right? That will be included in this coaching package along with those coaching calls. So in those coaching calls, you'll be able to have a personalized approach to your health and wellness plan that looks at, we'll talk about your nutrition, we'll talk about, your exercise, all the things I went over in the beginning. So emotional health and also like supplements and stress management. So all those will be on those calls and for the 2350 for the 4 months. So you get all of that included in that package. So wonderful option if that is something you're like, I've been looking for a more holistic approach. Happy to help when it comes to all this because at the end of the day, I just want to help people rebalance their body and mind. With myself going through this, my own program, it's been transformative as far as what I'm discovering and also learning about myself and in my gut and my mineral levels and even just metals. Like there's a heavy metals test. So there's a lot we can test and get real data for um, and have access to. So just at home, right? You do the test at home and then you'll get all the results for that. So thank you so much for being here, for tuning in and being present in this webinar. I really hope it was valuable for you. Again, here's my email. If you have any questions or interested in scheduling a discovery call, just email me wellness. And then my Instagram is Sarah TM Wellness, and that's where you can also reach me and see more of my content and things that are coming up. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see what you take away from this and apply to your life. Thank you so much for being here. Chat soon.